Hi, everyone. Today, me and Tete are going to be talking about Ian Chandler's The No B.S. course on freelance writing. And the reason we're talking about this is because Tete has been taking this course, or, at least, the free version of it, which was available through a code on an email, a newsletter. And basically, she was able to take a month's worth of this course.
Yes, I was. And I would have to say this would have to be one of the best opportunities of learning that I've ever encountered. It was very refreshing. It was easily digestible. The lessons took no more than, I would say, 15 minutes, which is ideal for people who have a very busy schedule or not a lot of energy, which may result from a busy schedule. So it was a perfect course. There was so much to learn in such a digestible, well, not condensed, but in such a quick, effective manner. So this was indeed a very impressive course.
Yeah, I'm really glad you enjoyed it.
I certainly did. Thank you. I'm very thankful that you showed me this and pointed me into the direction. Otherwise, I would not have found this course and taken advantage of it.
Right. So for people who want to check out this course and what it's about, you can check out the link in the description. It's part of the writinglaunch.com website. And basically, there's the frequently asked questions at the bottom of the page. You can enroll now, and the cost is 47 a month. But there is a code. I think if you subscribe to the Writing Launch newsletter, that enables you to test it out for a month for free.
Yes, it does. If you subscribe, they will give you that code that you can type in, that promo code, and then you can have a month's worth of lessons and this course for free, which is just fantastic. And it's especially helpful for people who want to get into freelance writing because it's such a different playing field than creative writing.
It is, yes. So, yes, back to the questions that I had for you to explore more of this and how it's helped you gain a better understanding of where you want to go with your writing, especially with Andre's story, 70 Fierce Years.
Right.
So, number one, how did you think this course was going to be like?
At first, I had not so much reservations, but I was a little daunted. I had been used to different courses, and although the lessons had been short, they were tedious and repetitive. So I had my fears about that. Um, but once I had seen the format from the preview, per se, I was suddenly encouraged and I was impressed. So before I went into the course, I wasn't sure if it was going to be a very long, repetitive type of course, or if it was going to be sort of a meandering kind of course, or a course that would only work for people who understood freelance. No, this course was perfect for people who had never done freelance and were very much a neophyte to the whole freelance writing world, if you will.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Yes. So, number two, what was the highlights? What were the highlights of this course after
I,
you started taking it?
I think initially it was the first three lessons that really grabbed my attention. One was the fact that they asked you to determine what is your niche of audience, who is your target audience, which when you're creative writing, you have somewhat of a better idea, but then again, anybody's open to read your creative work. But freelance, on the other hand, it is a payable service and it is something that you have to create, and you have to find the right kind of company or audience, for the kind of freelance writing that you are doing. And it was talking about, age, demographic, the context of your audience. So that's something very important to determine because freelance is far more compartmentalized than creative, which anybody can approach creative and read it, but freelance, often you're looking up a subject that is relevant to you and your interests or your pursuits. So it very much made one question and determined, what kind of audience, you know, who is your target audience for your freelance writing.
Right. Number three, how much of this course did you do? As I understood, you did a 1 month trial, and this course was 6 weeks in total, right? Like the full payable course.
Yes, it was. So With this, I was able to do about, I would say, from the percentage that it showed me, 38%, which may not seem like a lot, but given the hectic schedules and things like that and other issues, I think I was able to bite a pretty good decent chunk out of the course, and it had taught me a lot. There were some of the lessons I wish I had covered, um, but on the other hand, given the fact that I had the free month's version, I think I got quite a bit out of it. Maybe in the future I will be a paying member to complete the courses in their entirety and everything.
That is pretty impressive, especially given how busy you are. And, 38% is pretty close to half. So that's pretty great.
Yes, yes, it was. I was really impressed how much I could complete, like in just, you know, not so much in spare time, in so much in spare time to be able to complete me, 3 to 4 lessons in one sitting, which is really impressive because I was thinking, well, I have to slog through one lesson. But no, the lessons are very approachable, very understandable, very user friendly, and extremely comprehensible. And they're just so easy to approach. So I was very impressed. And it gave me a better idea of, the sort of the harder realities of this kind of writing, because it does require a certain toughness and discipline, if you will.
hmm And what kind of format did the course have? Was it mostly videos? Like, were there also exercises, a mix of those?
Well, each lesson, from what I had completed, it began with an opening paragraph, an opening statement, and then it would follow into explaining about a particular subject that you may encounter in freelance, or the various challenges that are posed in freelance. And then, of course, it would have, I would say, 3 to 4 questions that would make you think about the subject and what you had learned from the lesson. And then they would have an optional exercise, like pretend you're writing an essay for your website, or pretend you're writing to sell a particular product. And that I found not at all daunting, but actually sort of a very kind of a fun challenge in a way. There were um, I did not see any videos in the lessons that I had completed, although I did see in some attachments that there were some video attachments in the later lessons. So
I
they may
see.
have had, maybe videos for the last lessons, which were probably more complex, because they were trying to increase, I think, in complexity, not so much length, but in complexity.
I see. So it's kind of different from the Coursera courses, which, always start with a video.
Very much so. I actually don't like video courses, so this was actually quite nice. I prefer to read a paragraph, digest the paragraph, because although I'm better at expressing myself verbally, I don't listen to verbal instructions that well. I do better with
Mhm.
written instruction and being able to take my time to comprehend it. Um, I think I also appreciate the fact that the format, I think, is more approachable than Coursera, because I think with Coursera, unfortunately, it does demand certain, how do I say, certain projects, and then you have to wait for the grading process. But this is by far more approachable, because you're simply doing the exercise of your own volition, and it's built on a thing of trust, which I can imagine maybe some people will take advantage of it, but I know that I certainly, with each lesson, tried to fulfill the exercise that was presented for me. Not every lesson had a an exercise, but whichever ones did, I did try to, do more of what was asked, which was like non-creative writing, like maybe writing about politics or a subject that didn't pertain to anything creative.
Mhm. I think it's sometimes good to write something that's not creative because writing a lot of nonfiction can actually help you organize your thoughts better
It really
because
does.
fiction is so subjective sometimes.
Fiction is very subjective, and I think writing nonfiction is refreshing because it strengthens and limbers your reasoning. It helps you, as you said, organize your thoughts. It also helps you to improve your syntax, because now not only are you trying to organize your thoughts, but you're trying to be more articulate in a more hard professional way, I would say. So you're able to think and rationalize subjects or topic or a line of thinking in a more professional manner, which prompts you to look at different words and examine their definitions and become a more clear and articulate communicator, I think.
Hmm. That leads to our next question, which is, how have you been applying what you've learned from this course to your own creative writing, especially 70 Fierce Years? I know you mostly do creative writing rather than freelance, but has it affected the way you see writing in general?
I think it has affected the way I see writing in general. I see writing not so much as a sporadic, formless form, but now as more of a structured form that demands a certain set of discipline, determination, as well as organization and focus, which is something, unfortunately, if you solely or exclusively work with creative writing, you will not get that you miss the opportunity if you don't do freelance, if you don't do nonfiction. So, the lessons that I've learned from this course, especially with the application of the rules of nonfiction, of doing research, rationalizing, and articulating, and effectively communicating, as well as selecting the right words, using the right tone, make sure that your pacing and your present tenses are consistent. I think all of these lessons can help a creative writer improve. It certainly has for me because now I've begun to challenge myself with, tackling more descriptive, heavier things at Andre's work rather than just have him solely opinionate all the time. And maybe it's helped me to understand Andre's thinking better as well because he is a full complex man. He's not just a one-dimensional type of personality.
That's very true. Greatly described.
Thank you.
So, what do you think of freelance writing now that you've taken the course? How does it compare to creative writing? Of course, these two genres of writing can overlap, but in the context of this course, freelance writing refers to creating factual, non fictional content for websites and ebooks and marketing.
I think the I think the difference is, how do I say, how it differs is that I think with creative writing, unless you're disciplined, it can kind of meander all over the place unless you really push yourself, discipline, and organize your thoughts. And the benefits of freelance writing stem from the fact that it forces you to focus on a subject, it forces you to research, it focuses for you to discern between informational sources. And of course, in this world with all the madness going on, we need to discern what is
Mhm.
fabricated and what is actual reality, as well as reason if we ourselves cannot determine what is actually going on. I think freelance writing also demands a structure that helps you to compartmentalize, organize, and effectively communicate any kind of concept, topic, subject, or line of reasoning, or just as the premise of a subject. I think another benefit of freelance writing is the fact that it causes you, as I said, to use rational thinking, but also to become more articulate. I think one of the pitfalls of creative writing is that you may, especially if you're of a more romantic, retro strain, as I am, to lapse into flowery speech, which isn't always the best at communicating, because now everybody's scrambling for a dictionary and they're like, archaic definition. Oh, that's what she meant. But with freelance, you're using kind of cutting edge modern uh, terms. Sometimes they're technical, but people who have been exposed to technology understand the analogy of a technical term to apply to describe something else. And it's made me think of things too. Like, for example, it's made me think of things that I hadn't thought about before, like considering different aspects, like, say, of Andre's own self. Like, he would know quite a bit about weaponry, somewhat
Mhm.
about machinery of his time, and he would know about these things and he would describe these things because these things are part of his environment and are important to him. But he could also use them as analogies to things that he's doing or thinking, Because Andre, of course, is a man and his mind is very masculine. So he's going to apply these kind of comparisons and analogies to what he's experienced, as opposed to something that would be less concrete or more vague.
That makes sense. And I think that fleshes out his era and, period and setting a lot better too, since, he is from the early 20th century in Russia. So, by talking about the weapons and, because he was in the army and all these other things, you're fleshing out the environment more and we get a more solid sense of where Andre's coming from and how he's like.
Yes, we definitely do. It fleshes out his character more. It gives more structure and credence to himself as he narrates. Like, we can really believe this was a person who was alive and a very full and complete person. As opposed to like leaning back on vagaries because I've decided not to discipline myself and not do more research, which freelance makes you discipline yourself and research all aspects, not just the
Mhm.
surface, but to really grasp and have a good sense of understanding of the subject you're writing about. So that way you're providing not only accuracy, but vivid detail and completeness of covering that subject for your readers.
Exactly. Yeah. I think this is a really important lesson for all writers to learn. The being very very disciplined, because I think a lot of writers sometimes just want to coast on when inspiration comes, but inspiration is so subjective. When is it considered inspiration? Like if you have a tiny idea but you're too tired to do it, does that mean you're not going to work on it until you feel more energetic? But when are you going to feel more energetic? That's the thing, especially if you're working these long shifts, or you just have so many things going on in your life. It doesn't mean that you have to put everything on the back burner until everything is quote unquote okay.
That's true. I think that's a pitfall that many people, especially myself, fall into because it's just it's far easier just to say, "Oh, I'll do this on a day such and such," or "I'll do this when I'm more inspired, or when I have more time, or when I have more energy." But unfortunately, in the relentless throes of our modern age, with the modern workload and shift that we as a society have found ourselves in just to survive, as well as the multitude of responsibilities we are obligated with, finding that kind of time for inspiration or energy is extremely rare. And there's going to be times where you're going to have to push and discipline yourself, like with freelance writing, as it is a job. You have to treat it like a job, as you said, um, to do it even when you are tired, even on your day off when
Hmm.
all you want to do is maybe take a nap or read a book or watch a movie. You force yourself to sit down and write, and you don't meander and look at the screen. You just suddenly start typing, and you don't care, oh, if it's garbage, it's garbage, I'll fix it in post cut. And you just keep
Hmm.
writing, and sometimes when you push yourself to do that, you will falter. And I think another pitfall too is that I think a lot of people want to wait until they have their thoughts all organized so they can write like a master, but sometimes you have to clunk out basic rudimentary things and then try to polish it as you keep going. It's a bit like chart your
Hmm.
path, like lay down the railroad tracks, but you can come back and hammer in the bolts and lay down the railing underside for it.
I totally agree. I've been doing freelance writing for around a year now. And, I think I've become more disciplined as a result of all of this. I wake up every day at 8 or 8:30, and then I do, my morning exercises, and then I have breakfast. And then starting at 9, I just come back upstairs and I start writing. I don't care what's going on, like really honestly. Like I was just saying, even if I see a video I really want to watch, or someone I really want to talk to, I'm going to wait until I get most of these things done. At least 75% or 90% done. And then maybe I can take a break and reply to someone, watch a video or something like that. But definitely, I learned that if I don't do this, I'm probably going to just spend my whole morning watching YouTube or
Yeah.
something. And then, it's already 1, and then I have lunch, and then I'm very tired and I don't want to do anything.
Exactly. That is such a pitfall I think so many people fall into. I mean, I know for me, that's always been a grave, grave problem is like, I have my day off. I'm like, oh, the day all to myself. I'm going to sit down and write, but before I do, I'm going to wait until I eat something or until I watch this YouTube video, and then I think, oh, I'll listen to some music to get me pumped up. And then before you know it, I fall down the rabbit hole of YouTube, internet distractions, and somehow I find myself scrolling through over 20,000 different things that I liked on Tumblr. And then before I know it, it's like, oh, it's 1:30. Time for lunch. All right, after lunch. And then before you know it, the whole day is gone. I'm like, oh, it's evening. I didn't get any writing done. And then I frantically try to write 400 words, and it's a bit of a faltering mess, and then I get frustrated. So I've done away with that thanks to the discipline I've learned from freelance writing, as well as your advice and encouragement into doing that type of writing.
Right. So in general, who would you recommend this course for?
I would recommend it for anybody who wants to have a more serious discipline to their writing. If they consider writing their craft, their calling, and they want to take it more seriously, as opposed to just a hobby, um, I would definitely recommend this. And even for the serious hobbyist who may want to improve, I would recommend it as well. I think it's important and imperative that we ourselves challenge our minds and strengthen our minds, because the mind is a muscle. If we allow it to get weak, it becomes, becomes a very apathetic muscle, and it becomes,
Mhm.
weak, and uh, you know what I mean? It becomes atrophied, and we can't allow that. So I would recommend this course to any writer who wants to perfect their craft. I would recommend it to creative people. I would recommend it to freelance people who have maybe wanted to refresh or learn a few golden nuggets along the way. But definitely for creative people, I think creative writers need to have more discipline in their craft. And I think they need to be better, effective communicators, because for example, a lot of fiction I see on the market now, and I'm not just talking about sci-fi or fantasy, but genres across the board suffer from a lack of effective communication and oversimplification while trying to cram in flowery ideas, which I'm not trying to condemn or anything, but it's just something as a reader, especially if you are a reader who is a writer, you can understand the frustrations of what happens when a writer does not try to hone and perfect their craft, and there's always room for improvement even for masters.
Mhm. Right. Very well said. Finally,
Mhm.
are you interested in taking other courses like this in the future?
I definitely am. In fact, tomorrow I've registered for a live mini course, if you will, and I'm very, very eager to see what I will learn from that, because just as there is a creative side to writing, there is also a technical side that I myself am severely lacking and would like to learn more and discipline myself more in.
Mhm. And I'm gonna be joining in with that course, so we're both gonna be students, for tomorrow's course, and I can't wait to learn more and, another review of this course,
Yes,
of that
yes,
that
you
other
will,
course,
of
yeah.
that other course. I'm very excited. I cannot wait to see what awaits us tomorrow.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.